Well, why don't we get started? Thanks everyone for joining our 2026 first webinar of the season. Tonight, we're basically going to focus on kind of two things. First, we're going to talk a little bit about planning your trip along the GDT, because that is an important element in, I'm sure, something that everyone is going to be eagerly or busy trying to sort out next week is permits. The way that the permitting system is set up, particularly with Parks Canada, is you do need to have your kind of itinerary planned out in advance. So we'll start off with that and kind of walk through the planning process and determine what the route looks like, places that you need to worry about permits up and down the trail, and so that you can get yourselves organized to have the best level of success as we go into the next week or two when the Parks Canada permits come available. Before we do get started, we do want to thank our sponsor this year, Durston, and their contributions to the Great Divide Trail and the Great Divide Trail Association. I'll start today's session with a land acknowledgement. So we do want, as the Great Divide Trail Association, we are committed to reconciliation, which starts by taking this and every opportunity to acknowledge and honor the privilege that we have to live, work, and play within the Treaty 7, 8, and unceded territories that make up the Great Divide Trail. We honor and acknowledge that the Great Divide Trail passes through the traditional Indigenous territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Stoney Nakoda, the Tsuut'ina, the Cree, the Secwepemc, the Lheidli and the Tunaka, and Métis. The Great Divide Trail Association would like to invite you to advocate for what you love and to preserve nature for future generations to enjoy, while educating yourselves and others on the Indigenous history and perspectives, particularly up and down the trail. As some parts of the trail have very, very deep history with the First Nations, as well as the explorers and settlers that kind of came after. And it's important to recognize that there is a long history and that we are walking in the footsteps of many others that have come before us, and hopefully many others that will come after us as we look to preserve and enjoy the trail. So myself, my name is Kelly McDonald. I live in Calgary. I've been backpacking in the Canadian Rockies for 40 years, quite a while. I've had a lot of opportunities to explore, recreate, and enjoy the mountains nearby. I am a GDTA section hiker, so far I've hiked about a third of the trail. And every year I chip away a bit more, and hopefully in the next 4 or 5 years I'll have the entire trail checked off. I am a volunteer and member of both the IT and Trail Protection and Advocacy Committees within the Great Divide Trail Association. This year, I am also a blogger with the Trek. Going to be sharing details not only on the Great Divide Trail and some of the other trips that I'm planning for this summer, and I also volunteer with the Outdoor Council of Canada Foundation, which is an advocacy group committed to outdoor education and making sure that we have access to outdoor recreation safely for Canadians across the country. Also joining me today, Megan. I don't know if Megan, if you wanted to quickly introduce yourselves before we go into the content.
Yeah, I'm Megan Kaiser. I hiked the GDT in 2023 with my husband. I'm currently the co-chair of the GDT Outreach Committee, and I am the GDTA social media handler. So if you tag us on Instagram this summer, I'm the one who is retaking everything you guys tag us in.
Great. So between the two of us, and we have a few other folks from the GDTA that have kind of joined in the background, we'll, like I said, do our best to answer any questions that folks have. So what is the Great Divide Trail Association? So we are a volunteer-based organization. We're a nonprofit and charitable organization that's really dedicated to maintaining and advocating for the Great Divide Trail. So every summer we organize 15 to 20 different trail building activities. Over the years, we've built hundreds of kilometers of trail. We do a lot of maintenance, clear blowdowns, fix washouts, add switchbacks where things get too steep. We literally build bridges and establish campsites, food storage lockers, outhouses, up and down the trail. We do advocate on behalf of the trail and kind of acting as stewards to continue to kind of help support its growth and support its sustainability throughout today and into the future. How can help? Well, I mean, as always, we'd like to ask folks to join the GDTA. You can go to our website and become a member. Membership helps. Not only does it help with our annual operations and activities, but strength comes with numbers. So when we talk to organizations like Parks Canada, Alberta Parks, BC Parks, particularly, we all know that everyone would love to have a single permit that covers the entire trail, but having those numbers helps in those conversations. So being a member, it helps when we do our advocating work and meet with the various trail managers up and down the trail. There's also plenty of opportunities to volunteer, not only with many of our standing committees that do work all throughout the year, but also those of you who want to get involved with trail building, trail maintenance. It's a great way to meet fellow hikers, fellow outdoor enthusiasts, and it's a great social event to meet and build trail. Like there's nothing quite like spending the day working with rakes and picks and row-hoes and Pulaskis, and at the end of the day, you look at it and say, hey, we built 50 meters, 100 meters of brand new trail that people are going to start using and start enjoying. And of course, as a nonprofit organization, donations always help. We did just wrap up our annual fundraising campaign just before the end of the holidays, and had a tremendous success. We raised over $46,000, as well as had an anonymous donor match that. So great accomplishment throughout the year. We also get funds from various government organizations and entities like Durston that support the work that we do on the trail. Membership also does have its benefits, so there are a number of discounts available with your membership, and those range from Gear Trade, Jasper Downtown Hostel, Wild Mountain Eats, Durston, Smart Wool, the Calgary Waterton Shuttle, Friends of Jasper, Jasper Hikes and Tours, and Robson Backcountry Adventures, Country Encounters, Zolio, Black Sheep Camp, Flat Feasts, Lodge, and Peter Lockheed Resupply. So often, just your membership pays for itself with discounts on shuttles, staying at hostels, resupply, and even gear through Gear Trade and Durston. So every year we post an exercise far out to make sure that the application is updated with the latest and greatest trail track. So that has been updated, and I believe it's now available in the latest far out update. If not, it should be available in the matter of the next few days. We also go through and edit and update all of the itineraries and campground lists on the website. Those are now published, so we do have 3 standard itineraries that we make available, kind of a relaxed, an average, and an eager or quick. So those are, while you don't have to adhere to any of those itineraries, it does help with planning and kind of set some guidelines as to how quickly folks can do the trail. If you do have a previous through hiking experience, maybe you've done some of the long trails down in the US, PCT, CDT, AT. Usually a good rule of thumb is we say, however many miles you were doing in the US trails, convert that kilometers, and that's part of what you'll do on the GDT. It is, we do call it the wildest through hike for a reason, and it has quite a range of trail conditions, from rugged backcountry routes that get very little maintenance to others that are very well maintained, highways in the backcountry that you'll fly and eat up the miles. A few other things that we do is we confirm all the resupply points as well as the partners that we work with on the trail to make sure that we can manage those resupply, whether it be elk pass, whether it be blueberry, whether it be other partners up and down the trail. We work with them. And then we always update and create new hiker resources. So this is our first webinar of this year. There will be several more between now and the start of the hiking season that'll talk about a wide variety of different topics on the trail to help you be as successful as possible. And then we do also work a lot with Parks Canada, BC Parks, Alberta Parks to kind of coordinate our activities. One of the things that is a little bit different, and I know, as we get into the permitting discussions, it is one of those things that it does take some effort, it does take some planning, and I know it does cause a lot of anxiety because in some places on the trail there is a lot of competition for those permits, and part of the reason behind that is, unlike the U.S., which has the Scenic Trails Act that at a federal level kind of organizes and creates the legislation for the long trails in the U.S., like the ones I mentioned before, the Appalachian Trail, PCT, CDT. There is no equivalent in Canada. So the GDT kind of exists, and we need to manage relationships through a number of different government jurisdictions and land managers. So it's federal land in the national parks, Alberta land, both public and park land. Same with BC, public and park land. So it's a lot of different managers and a lot of different folks we work with, competing jurisdictions. So it does make the world where we have a single permit for the entire trail definitely a lot more complex. It's unlikely to be something that's going to happen anytime soon, but it is something we continue to work for. But it is important, right? So the permitting process, like I said, it's a bit more. It is some work and it requires some planning, but it is necessary. Parts of the trail pass through very, very popular backcountry areas within the national parks, and we have GDT hikers that are doing through hikes. We have GDTers that are doing section hikes. We have people just doing sections of trail, not even realizing it's part of the GDT. So famous sections like the Rock Wall or Egypt Lake or Skyline. These are all very popular international trails that people come from all over the world just to hike those bits of trail, not necessarily as part of the GDT, as well as people that are just coming out for an overnight, like they want to stay at Flow Lake like everyone else because of the incredible views and scenery, and so it's a shared resource. So permits allow the impact to be managed so that we're not loving our parks to death, and make sure that it's kind of fair access for all that want to experience the backcountry and all of the opportunities that it provides us. As mentioned, like we do a lot of work to kind of coordinate and build strong relationships with all the land managers up and down the trail. And
hey, Kelly, I'm just going to pop in.
Sure.
We seem to be having a problem with your microphone. You're just cutting in and out a lot.
Okay. Just give me 1 second and I'll change. Okay. Does that sound better?
Yeah, that sounds much better.
Okay. We will stick with this. Just one moment. I got a little bit of an echo on my side. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay, great. Yeah, as I said, building the relationships with the land managers up and down the trail is super important.
They're the ones that allow us to access the trail, do trail maintenance, build infrastructure on the trail, and we want to have those good relationships with those land managers. And permitting is part of that. If hikers are not getting their permits and trying to stealth camp or get around things, that doesn't help our relationship with the land managers. So with that, I'll move into the actual planning and itineraries on the trail. So some of the resources that we have access to is we've got maps. So for those of you who like paper maps, through geartrade.ca, you can order a full set of maps across the entire trail. These were created in 2023 and they are up to date. So if you want your physical maps, head over to Geartrade and you can order the full set or any subset of them that you wish.
Sorry,
the maps are all.
Sorry, can you have an echo now?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about this.
Just give me 1 second. How's that? I'm still getting a little bit of an echo. 1 moment. Is that better? No, still an echo. Sorry about this. Please bear with me. Okay, how's that?
That sounds much better.
Okay, too much technology. Okay, back to the map. So you can either purchase physical hard copies of the maps at geartrade.ca, or through the website, you can either download PDF, or you can actually download the KML GPS track from the GDTA site, and you can feel free to upload that into any, like whether you use Gaia or Topo, CalTopo, or any other app that you like to use. That the opportunity is there to bring in the KML file. I myself, I like to use Gaia, and it's been pretty handy to load it in. If folks have questions, I can show you where you can access that from the GDTA site and download that file if you wish. Okay, so overview of the trail. So it is about 1,150 kilometers. It varies a little bit year by year as we build new trail and slightly reroute things. But as of current, it's about 1,150 kilometers. It starts at the Canadian-U.S. border in Waterton Lakes National Park and ends at Kakwa Lake Provincial Park in BC. Typically takes about 50 to 55 days for the average person to complete. Folks have definitely done it faster, and others have taken longer. There are 7 sections, and we'll go through each section one by one. And typically, there's about 5 or 6 resupplies on the trail. As I talked about earlier, we do like to call this the wildest through hike because you are going to experience a little bit of absolutely everything. And when you add in some of the alternate routes that you can explore well on the trail, even more so, because some of the alternate routes are literally routes. You're kind of hiking from pass to pass, and there may be no trail as you kind of do a little bit of route finding and a little bit of bushwhacking if you so desire. I'll start with section A. So the sections basically start off at the south and work their way north. Most folks do typically hike the trail northbound, but others do it southbound as well. Usually the reason for hiking northbound is the weather window opens a little bit earlier. So most folks do start the trail typically around July 1st or Canada Day. Um, Depending on the snow year, some people will start a little bit earlier into June. And in some cases, if it's a bad snow year, July 1st can even be a little bit too early. I know 3 years ago we had a pretty heavy snow year and a late melt, so there was quite a bit of snow on the trail well into the first couple weeks of July. Um, if you are planning to start in kind of that early June timeframe, expect snow. Make sure that you bring some kind of traction aid. In some cases, you may need even snowshoes. Just for context, on part of the trail, like the trail does pass by the Sunshine Ski Resort in Banff National Park. Typically, people are skiing on that hill until the end of May. So May 24th, they typically have their slush cup. And in some years, they've actually had skiing all the way through June. And like I said, that couple years ago, they had skiing on July 1st. So just bear in mind, as I know people are sometimes eager to get on the trail, but yeah, there can be a lot of snow. So Section A. Section A starts at Waterton Lake National Park and ends in Coleman, Alberta. It's about 145 kilometers. Elevation gains about 7,000 meters. A couple of the alternates on this section are the Rose Sage Pass and Barnaby Ridge. The Rose Sage alternate is about 45 kilometers, and that kind of gets picked up. It helps you avoid some of the campgrounds that you might need to book in Waterton Lakes National Park by staying on the Akamina Kinshaka Provincial Park side of the divide. And then there's the alternate over Barnaby Ridge that provides some spectacular scenery in exchange for a little bit of exposure and some minor scrambling, but it does keep you up and above the trees along Barnaby Ridge rather than hiking down an old forestry road towards the Castle Mountain Ski Resort. A few things for kind of planning and permits. So to be aware, to camp in the national parks, you do require a national parks pass. Now, for this summer, just like last summer, Canada Parks they have what they're calling the Canada Strong Pass, which is free between June 19th and September 7th. So that covers park access. That doesn't cover camping, reservations, permits. But if you are camping or if you are hiking the trail between June 19th and September 7th, there is no kind of national park pass that you need to purchase. If you are camping outside of that window, you will need a park pass, and that can vary between $71 and $167, depending on if you want a group pass, an individual pass, seniors pass, youth pass. If you go to the Parks Canada website, you can purchase that online. When it comes to some of the other permits that you'll need up and down the trail, in Waterton Lakes National Park, many folks will camp at the town site. So they'll come into Waterton Lakes, they'll stay at the town site, they'll spend a day, hike down to the border, tag the monument, come back. So you have the campground there. It ranges from $27.75 to $47.25 a night. All of these amounts are in Canadian, and that it basically varies depending if you want a walk-in tent site versus a full-service site with electricity, water, sewer. Which, if you're in a tent, you probably don't, but that's the range of fees there. Again, between that June 19th and September 7th, there is a 25% discount on any of the Parks Canada fees. That doesn't apply to the BC Parks or Alberta Parks fees, but anything within the national parks. For backcountry permits in Waterton Lakes, there are campgrounds at Boundary Bay, Bertha Bay, Alderson Lake, Lone Lake, and Twin Lake. Those are $15 per night. If you take the row alternative, you basically get to skip over the Lone Lake and Twin Lake section of the trail. So there's no need for, basically you can random camp within Akamina Kinshaka Park. Many folks will stay at Akamina Creek on the BC side of the divide. That's $5 to stay. You can pay for that online, or there is a little kiosk that you can drop your money or check into. And then further up the trail, there is a front country first come first serve campground at Lynx Creek, which is $23 a night. And again, that's cash or check. A few opportunities kind of resupply up and down the trail. So about the only 2 points along Section A where you'll kind of be close enough to civilization is the town site in Waterton Lakes at the very beginning. And then you will pass by the Castle Mountain Resort, which has the T-Bar pub that's open Friday through Sunday. So you can grab some nachos, something to eat. They also do have a hostel there and accommodations if you do wish to stay and have a shower. Otherwise, it'll be resupply when you get to Coleman at the end of Section A. Some folks will also go into Blairmore. Blairmore does have a few more options when it comes to if you need to purchase any gear or resupply up on backcountry food. Coleman's a little bit of a smaller community, so less options. But you can stay at Country Encounters. They're a supporter of the trail. Spry in Blairmore is the great place if you need to get specific gear. They also have a grocery store. So a lot of different options depending on what you'd like for a resupply. And always you can grab drinks at the Pass Brewery or the Rum Runner. A lot of places to grab a burger, nachos, or whatever you desire to fuel up as you make the transition from Section A to Section B. Section B is when it comes to permits. This is actually like, so if you want to just do a section of the trail and you don't want to worry about permits or bookings or reservations, Section B is the place to do that. It starts at Coleman, Alberta, on Highway 3 in kind of southern Alberta, and extends 195 kilometers, ending at Peter Lougheed Provincial Park, with about 7,900 meters of elevation gain. This is where we've been doing a lot of work. We opened the new High Rock Trail in 2022. The original route of the GDT in the southern part of Section B actually passed through BC and actually took it pretty close to a number of open pit coal mines on the Elk Valley side of the divide. Not the nicest views. So the past few years, we've spent a lot of work moving that onto the Alberta side to kind of maintain the wilderness experience. As mentioned, there's no reservations. There are a few usage permits that you are going to need, and I'll kind of talk about them briefly. The first one is the Alberta Public Lands Camping Pass. So that you'll need for any random camping up until you get to the Beehive Natural Area. That pass is $30 a year. Like I said, there's no reservations. You don't need to pre-book. It just is, as long as you have the pass, you can random camp like anywhere up to the Beehive Natural Area. And once you get past that, you're pretty much, you can camp in any of the wildland provincial parks or natural areas or public land use zones up until you get into Elk Lakes or Peter Lougheed Provincial Park. Once you get to Elk Lakes, there is a first come, first serve backcountry campground there, $5 online or cash or in person. They've got a little kiosk there. As you get to the terminus of Section B, you will come out at the Elk Pass trailhead. Bolton Creek is a campground that's very close to it. Mount Sorel is another campground right there. You do want to book that 90 days in advance. So Bolton Creek has a kind of a 90-day rolling window. That's a great place to resupply, have a shower, recharge your electronics. Along the way, you can get slightly off trail. It's about a 10K off trail and stop by Highwood House. It is a gas station, so it doesn't have a lot of options, but if you really want a bag of chips or a chocolate bar, it's definitely a place you can, they might have some ramen if you're lucky to resupply. We also have resupply lockers at the Elk Pass trailhead. just send a note if you want to schedule that through Resupply at the Great Divide Trail, and we can put you in touch with the service provider for that year. In previous years, it was Nicole Sharp. We have different folks that are going to be doing that service this year. So just send a note to Resupply, and we can put you in touch with the person organizing that. The Bolton, there is a store at the Bolton campground. In the past, the supply was kind of limited, but it has gotten a lot better recently. So last summer, they actually did have some backcountry meals. They've got isobutane canisters, ice cream, ramen, cup of noodles. So you can probably cobble together a resupply at the Bolton store if you wish, but definitely take advantage of the resupply lockers to kind of get ready for the next section. Choose your campsite wisely, as you it is a lot of random camping. We have been doing a lot of work over the past couple of years to establish campgrounds, get some bear lockers here or there. For the most part, there are no bear lockers, so make sure that you kind of plan accordingly for either food hangs or ursack or bear canister if you'd like. The whole trail does pass through grizzly territory, but more often the ones you need to worry about are the porcupines and the rodents that will happily chew a hole through your tent and your backpack to get to your food. There's no cellular service along this part of the trail, including at Peter Lougheed Provincial Park. There is a phone there, pay phone, if for those of you who remember pay phones, if you do want to make a phone call. And there are showers at Bolton Creek, so it's a nice place if you do want to have a quick shower. Section C. So this is where, for the most part, the permits come into play. So this is it runs from Peter Lougheed Provincial Park to Field, BC, a little over 200 kilometers with a little over 8,000 meters of elevation gain. One of the alternates is Northover Ridge. Northover Ridge is an absolutely spectacular alternate, as long as you don't mind a little bit of exposure. There are some sections where you are literally hiking the divide, and the mountain basically on both sides kind of is a little bit of a drop off. So if you don't like any kind of exposure, I wouldn't recommend it. But for those of you who are okay with it, it's definitely a great experience with some incredible views, particularly if the weather is nice. So as you can see on the slide here, a lot more trails, a lot more permits. So we'll start off with Peter Lougheed Provincial Park. There are a couple of front country campgrounds. So Bolton, as I mentioned earlier, Mount Sorel is also a front country tenting only campsite. There's Interlakes Campground that's right there as well. Those are all front country campgrounds. Costs range from $31 to $55 a night. Again, depending if you want no services to full service. And then there are the backcountry campgrounds at Point, Forks, Turbine Canyon on the main trail. And then on the alternate, there's Three Owl Lake and Astor Lake. Those campgrounds are all $12 a night. For those of you who, if you can't get a permit at Astor Lake, because it is a fairly small campground, it's only 5 spots, random camping is allowed at what's called Northover Tarns, which is just across the divide into BC at the in Height of the Rockies Provincial Park. One thing is that BC Parks is very much keeping an eye on potential impact to that sensitive area. So if you do choose to camp at the Northover Tarns, please follow leave no trace principles. I mean, you should be following leave no trace regardless of where you are on the trail, but that is an area that BC Parks is definitely keeping a close eye on. So if they start seeing impact to that part of the park, they can kind of remove the ability to random camp there. Once you get into Height of the Rockies Provincial Park, random camping is permitted. There's a lot of places that, if you want, you can set up your tent and camp the night. There are more formalized camping at Palliser River and Palliser Pass. There's no facilities there, but they are nice nice clear areas, lots of places to set up a tent. There is an actual backcountry campground at Beatty Lake. It is a self-maintained campground, or no cost, but there are food lockers and an outhouse there located at Beatty Lake, and that's at the South Kananaskis north over alternate. Once you get into Banff, so you cross over Palliser Pass and into Banff National Park, you're now based into an area where there's no random camping permitted. And so this is where you're going to need permits. So you've got campgrounds at Bristol Lake, Birdwood, Big Springs, Marvel Lake, McBride's Camp, Allenby Junction, Howard Douglas Lake, Healy Creek, Egypt Lake, Faro Creek, Ball Pass Junction. One of the things that we do flag on the itinerary is the popularity of the campground. So there are some campgrounds that are going to be very, very popular. And so those are the campground or that you want to try to book as quickly as possible. Others are a lot less in demand, so you have more time to kind of get those permits. So if you want to be strategic in how you start booking things next week, it's a good thing to just kind of look at and understand where the most popular ones. If I were to say in this section, campgrounds that are more popular are, so Marvel Lake is fairly popular. A lot of people hiking into Assiniboine will stay at Marvel Lake. Howard Douglas Lake can also be fairly popular because it's not that far from the Sunshine ski resort. So some people will just come in overnight. It's also along the route for those hiking into Assiniboine. Egypt Lake is also popular. It is a large campground, so there's a lot of spots there, but it is beautiful. So there's a lot of people that are just coming into Egypt Lake for an overnight or a couple nights of camping. Ball Pass Junction is a critical one. Ball Pass Junction, it's a small campground. There's only 5 spots there, but it is one of the bottlenecks on the trail because it's the for that section as you get into the Rockwall Trail. There's only Ball Pass Junction, and then the next campground is Flow Lake. So if it's a 20-kilometer haul as it is, so if you miss out, that's like some people will hike down to the highway there and hitchhike to one of the front country campgrounds, but that's probably one of the ones you want to keep an eye on when it comes to booking. After you pass McBride's Camp, Allenby Junction, or Marvel Lake, you'll pass into Assiniboine Provincial Park. There you'll need permits to stay at either Lake Magog, Lake Og, or Porcupine. Those do come up for reservations 3 months in advance. It's only $5 a night, so not particularly expensive, but they are pretty popular, particularly Lake Magog and Lake Og. It's like trying to book tickets to the Rolling Stones. Like it'll literally be gone in seconds every day as the window rolls over. There is some random camping allowed in Assiniboine Provincial Park outside of the core area of the park. So they have this kind of concept of the core area that where Lake Magog, Lake Og, and Porcupine are. But there are a few other opportunities like Police Meadows, and others where you can stay if you can't get a spot at Lake Magog or Lake Og. Porcupine's a little bit less contested because it is a little bit outside of the park, but you do need permits to stay there. After that, you get into the Kootenay National Park, and this is Rockwall, which is another very popular trail. So that's Flow Lake, Numa Creek, Tumbling Creek, and Helmet Falls. Flow Lake is probably one of the single busiest campgrounds along the entire trail. It's extremely popular because not only do you have thru hikers doing it, you have people that are doing the rock wall that are staying there, and then people that are just coming up overnight because it is a spectacular view. The lake there is just incredible. So that's like between the campgrounds that you really need to be on the ball, not to make a pun. There are a few other opportunities, like for example, if you can't get permits along Rockwall, there is a campground at Wolverine Pass, which is just outside of Kootenay National Park, so you can random camp there. And then after that, after you finish Rockwall, you have the campground at MacArthur Creek at Yoho National Park. That one is not particularly popular. It's a little bit off the beaten trail. So those are kind of the key campgrounds to worry about in Section C. Along this route, we've got resupply in Canmore, Banff, Mount Engadine, Field, or Lake Louise. If you do want to stay at Mount Engadine, the Lake Louise Hostel, or in Golden, make sure you do book early. These areas are extremely popular with front country tourists, people just looking to experience Banff and the mountains. So if you do want to stay at a hotel at any of these locations, make sure that you book early. I know folks that are coming, from internationally to hike the trail. Many people want to say, "Hey, I want to go to Banff while I'm here." Just bear in mind that Banff in the summer can be extremely busy and expensive. So just bear in mind and kind of plan accordingly. Same with folks that want to try to visit Lake Louise or Moraine Lake. Those are extraordinarily busy. You need to get tickets to hop on the bus to be able to go up to those locations. So if it's not, I would just say it's not something you can just easily add to your itinerary if you're hiking the Great Divide Trail, just because of the popularity. There are gear shops in Lake Louise and in Golden, also in Canmore and Banff. So if you do need gear or shoes or what have you, those are the locations to look at. There's not a lot of resupply options in Field itself. Field is a very, very small town. So if you do want to resupply, probably the easiest is either to hitchhike from Field to Lake Louise to the east, or to Golden to the west. Golden's a fairly large town, so they've got the full range of gear shops, grocery stores, pretty much everything you need you can find in Golden. And Golden is also the home of Durston. So if you want to go say hi to Dan, he's in Golden.
Hey, Kelly, can I interrupt for 1 sec?
Sure.
It's not on the website yet, but we're just in the process of organizing resupply at the Friends of Yoho gift shop in Field. So they're open 7 days a week, and they will have resupply set up for next year soon. It's going to be on the website soon.
Fantastic. There are, if you want, you can grab lunch and snacks at the Sunshine Ski Resort. It is open in the summer for hikers. Egypt Lake Campground is, because they are in the process of rebuilding a cabin there that used to be. Typically, it's been closed starting August 1st. It kind of varies depending on what the plans are, how they're progressing. So keep an eye out for that. You may, like when you try to book Egypt Lake, when it comes to the summer, you may find like, oh, this is weird. Why can't I seem to book Egypt Lake August 2nd or August 3rd? So in some cases, like they say, it'll be closed, so you won't be able to book it when reservations open. But then you'll find later in the season that they've decided that actually they're not going to be starting to work on the cabin until August 7th or August 10th or what have you. And so they'll open up a week or 2 weeks of additional reservations at Egypt Lake. We also have Rider Express. So if you're not fond of hitchhiking, there is bus service between Banff, Lake Louise, Field, and Golden. So that's an option as well. Okay, Section D. Section D is starts in Field, and it's the shortest section, ending at Saskatchewan Crossing, a little over 100 kilometers with about 3,500 meters of elevation gain. There are a couple alternates. The Queetnock, which is pretty much most people will do the Queetnock alternative rather than the Emisque Valley, as well as Collie Creek is typically what most people will hike because it's kind of it. Hopefully, it will soon become the official trail, but because of some of the crossings and work that we're doing in that area, it's not quite yet the official trail. You may see on the maps, and there's a little lake called Glacier Lake kind of right here. Some people will look at it and say, oh, like there's a campground there, maybe I want to check it out. It's not, it's basically there's a fairly significant river crossing that you need to make from the Great Divide Trail to get over to Glacier Lake. If you're on a horse and can ford the river, great. If you're hiking, you would be prepared to swim. So generally not feasible. This is the first portion of the trail where there is random camping that's permitted within the national park. So there's a few sections in Banff here, and then a little bit in sections in Jasper, where we get into some of the random camping areas where permitted. You still do need a permit, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But you are required to bring food storage that is approved by the Interagency Grizzly Bear Committee. So this could be a bear canister, this could be an Ursack, as long as it's approved. But you do need some kind of food storage if you are random camping within the national parks. There was a wildfire in this part, kind of around this area here in 2024, but there are no closures. So the team went in there last spring and did a bunch of work and repairs to kind of address the damage from the fires. But so it's all good right now. As mentioned, coming in from field, although right now the formal trail does kind of go up the Amiskwi Valley, this is very much it's unmaintained trail. The Parks Canada basically has abandoned most of this trail. It's sensitive grizzly bear territory, so they're trying to steer people away from using it. So if you like willow bashing, by all means, but most folks do take the Iceline Trail and the Queetnock alternate. It's much nicer. You do need some permits if you are going to take the Queetnock alternate to stay at some of the campgrounds along the Skyline Trail, or sorry, the Iceline Trail. But yeah, it is something that most folks are do take as they're hiking this part of the trail. As well, if you've seen on the website, we've been raising funds for a cable car, which is right around the Collie Creek alternate. All knock on wood, the cable car will be installed for this season, but there are still a few kind of hoops we need to work through with the land managers to make sure that we can get that approved and installed. But there will be updates and about the status of the creek crossings there, and either temporary bridges or hopefully the cable car will be there this year. Some of the permits that you need to worry about. Oh, this is kind of a little bit more of the detail here. If you want to follow the official trail, it's basically you hike up here, you hike all the way down on this forestry road, and then you hike all the way back up. But this is, again, like right now we have temporary bridges at Collie Creek here. This Blayberry Bridge can be washed out. We do work to try to put in a bit of a temporary crossing here as best we can. So this is, again, this keep an eye on updates. We'll place updates on the Facebook group. There'll be updates in Far Out as well. So this may be kind of a last minute determine like what's the best route, because the last thing you want to do is hike all the way down here, realize you can't cross, and then need to hike all the way back. But yeah, this is an area that we're doing a lot of work right now to make this more of a permanent and easier section of the trail to navigate. For permits, if you are taking the Queetnock alternate, there are campgrounds at Yoho Lake and Little Yoho, $15 a night. They're probably some of the nicest campgrounds I've had the opportunity to stay in. Iceline is spectacular. You get to look at Takaka Falls from up above and the ice fields behind it. You're hiking well above tree line over old glacial moraines, and it's a really nice trail, and recommend that if you can get the permits, definitely take this section. Once you pass over the Queetnock Pass into the Amiskwi Valley, you do need a random camping permit. So the way that random camping works in the national park, so if you're on the Alberta side or the BC side and you're random camping, you can basically camp wherever you want, whenever you want, and you're good to go. In the national parks, you do need a random camping permit that's tied to the specific night. So you'll basically have to say, it's like, hey, I'm planning to stay in the Emisque on the night of August 5th. Because what Parks Canada does is they have a certain number of spots for an area of the park for each night. So in the Emisque, they may say, hey, we can have 3 parties every night. So they do use that to kind of manage impact. You will need to call the office. It's not something that you can book through the website. You generally don't need to like grab these random camping permits the day permits open. Usually you've got a little bit of leeway. I wouldn't let it wait too long, but you don't have to call them at like 8 o'clock in the morning on the day permits open to get your random camping permits. But yeah, it is like get all the permits that you need to book through the website, and then once you're done, you can call the office, leave a message, and usually they'll get back to you fairly quickly to arrange your permits. You'll need that for both the Emisque as well as in Banff on the House floodplain. It's still $15 a night. All the items that I've marked with an asterisk still have that 25% discount if you're hiking between that June and September window. Once you get to Saskatchewan Crossing, that's where most folks will resupply. If you are staying at the Saskatchewan Crossing Resort, the resupply box is free. Otherwise, there is a fee, and it's fairly expensive. I know, Kate, I think last year was like $100, but it is a pretty substantial fee if you want to mail a box there. They do have a store there. It's extremely expensive, and it's limited. So if you want to resupply with bags of chips and chocolate bars and beef jerky, and yeah, fantastic, but they don't have a lot of backcountry stuff. So a lot of people will try to stay at the resort just because it's a nice place to stop. They've got a really good breakfast buffet, have a shower, sleep in a bed. But yeah, it is something you want to plan for, and it can be a little bit expensive. For many, this is where people will swap their shoes, just because anything that you've been wearing all the way from Waterton Lakes is probably going to be pretty worn out by now. And usually people wait because in the House floodplain, your feet are going to get wet. There's a lot of, it's highly braided. You're going to be walking through water and creeks and streams, and so many folks are like, hey, I'm just going to wait till I finish the House floodplain, and then I can get rid of my soggy, moldy, stinky shoes and get some new ones. Section E. So Section E starts at Saskatchewan Crossing, ends in Jasper. Distance is a bit over 200 kilometers and just under 8,000 meters of elevation. The only real alternate on this section is the 6-pass alternate. Unfortunately, they in past years, Parks Canada did allow limited random camping on the 6-pass alternate, but because it does pass through some very sensitive caribou habitat, they now no longer allow any camping along the 6-pass alternate. Some people will try to hike it. You are allowed to hike it, but it's 40 kilometers of very, very rugged, no trail, tussocks. You need to be a super athlete to be able to do the 6-pass alternate in a day. So gauge that accordingly. It's not an easy section of trail if that's something that you wish to do. The trail, this is where you kind of pass in and out of some of the public lands. So the first part, there's no reservations required, but once you get into Jasper, there are going to be some sections that you are going to require reservations and permits. This is probably, I'd say, the section of trail that has the biggest differences in. You're going to be on some pretty rugged creek bashing up Owens Creek down in the center section, very, very remote sections of trail in the White Goat Wilderness, into the southern parts of Jasper, and then you're going to come out at Malign Lake Chalet and Cafe and the Skyline Trail, which is extremely popular. So you'll kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other, but lots of incredible views. This section of trail through here is, I don't know, there's some sections in section C that are beautiful, but like this section down here is pretty incredible as well. When it comes to the permitting to stay at Pinto Lake, that Crown Land or Public Land Camping Pass that we talked about earlier, this will cover you for Pinto Lake as well. They've got a nice campground there. There's actually 3 campgrounds there, but the main one at Pinto Lake has bear lockers, outhouse, great place to soak your feet in the lake. Once you get into Jasper, then you'll have Boulder Creek, 4 Points, waterfalls, Patobkin, Jonas Cutoff, Avalanche, Mary Vaux, Mary Schaefer, Evelyn Creek, Little Shovel, Snow Bowl, Takara, and Signal. Everything Evelyn Creek and below is this is all the Skyline trails, so this is fairly popular. For Avalanche, Mary Vaux, and Mary Schaefer, it's a little bit strange how they manage this, in that these are all very small campgrounds. And what Parks Canada that basically says that you can have one party in this area per night. So usually what'll happen is, you're on the day of trying to book your Jasper permits. Maybe someone gets the night that these campgrounds cover first. What we see a lot of folks do is on the Facebook group, they will basically say, hey, I got August 15th for Mary Vaux. Anyone else want to join me for that day, right? So because it's based on a party, your party can be, I think, up to 15 people. So if you're having trouble through this little section, like I said, go onto the Facebook group, say, hey, I'm looking for someone who has the permit for this night. Can I kind of join your group and hike through it on that particular day and stay that particular night? Many of you probably, we had the big fire in 2024 in Jasper. A lot of damage to the town site, a lot of damage to campgrounds and infrastructure. Thankfully, the large majority of the Great Divide Trail was skipped over, so it wasn't burned. There is a section basically around Signal and down the Forestry Road into Jasper itself that was affected by the burn. It is fully open, so there's no closures, but by and large, the trail was spared from the fire. We are doing ongoing maintenance for the past couple of years with Friends of Jasper in the Malign Valley. So it used to be pretty willowy and not the greatest. A lot of work been done to get that into better shape. So we'll probably be another group there this summer that'll continue to make improvements to that that section of trail. As mentioned, Skyline is very popular. Be flexible. If you're through hiking the whole trail, you've got pretty good trail legs by this point in time. I know a lot of people that have, like, it is about 40 kilometers of trail, but it's very, very nice trail. So some folks will just hike this whole section in a day. So that is an option, but if you can get some permits, it's definitely a nice place to stay. Want to resupply in Jasper. If you do want to stay at the Jasper Downtown Hostel, book early. It is popular. A lot of people stay there. There are hotels also in Jasper, so a lot of options. They are still rebuilding the town, but thankfully there's still a lot of infrastructure and facilities there that you can take advantage of. You can get drinks at the Dead Dog, and you can sign the trail register. I think there's always seems to be a gathering space for folks that are hiking the GDT. And while I haven't tried it myself, I heard the AYC Indian buffet is very, very good. Okay, sections F and G. So this is after Jasper. We kind of combine them together, but because a lot of people will try to do it in, like, there's not a lot of towns or human, like basically you will not, like once you kind of get off the Miet River trailhead, you will not cross another road until you get to Kakwa Lake. So sections F and G is 267 kilometers, 7250 of elevation gain, a number of high route alternates, the Perseverance high route, Surprise Pass high route, Providence high route, the Tote Road, and a few other options. So once you get from Jasper, so the main trail itself right now it's a bit of a road walk. It's not the sexiest part of the trail. Some people will try to take the Jasper Tote Road. It's not in the greatest shape right now. We are trying to do some work to kind of get it improved, but this is probably the one of the least inspiring sections of the trail. But like I said, we are working to make it better. And then once you get to the Miet River Trailhead, then you're into a section of Jasper National Park, and then you'll cross into Mount Robson and Wilmore Wilderness and a bunch of different kind of park areas. One thing for this year, the Mount Robson Berg Lake Trail is open again. So a few years back, they had some serious flooding on the trail. The trail was shut down for a couple of years while they rebuilt it. It is now fully reopened. So some folks will hike out to resupply at the Mount Robson Visitor Center. We also have resupply options at Blueberry Lake that you can also to look at. Okay, so some of the kind of camping and permits. So in Jasper, we've got Minnow Lake, Adolphus, Wolverine North, Timothy Slides, and Chone Creek. Most of these we're starting to get into a fairly remote area of Jasper. So these aren't super popular. I haven't heard people generally having trouble getting permits for a lot of these locations. Sometimes folks will have a hard time booking Wolverine. Wolverine, it's in the spring, there's usually a lot of flooding in this area. So generally they don't open permits for Wolverine until kind of mid-August, just to make sure that the campgrounds actually had time to dry out. So if you find, hey, I'm trying to book Wolverine and it's not letting me book it, it just may be that you're kind of too early in the season to be able to stay at Wolverine. In the Miet Valley, there is random camping permitted, similar to Yoho and Banff. You'll need to call a visitor center to get your permit, and you do need approved food storage to be able to camp there. Past that, you'll get into the Wilmore Wilderness. Random camping is permitted pretty much everywhere. You do need the $30 public lands camping pass. Wilmore Wilderness is fairly popular with the horseback crowd and outfitters, so you may bump into some horse groups. And then in Mount Robson Provincial Park, if you're hiking the Berg Lake Trail, you do need to worry about permits. Other parts of Mount Robson, you can random camp, and there's no permit or reservations required. But if you are using kind of the Berg Lake alternate, some people will also exit the trail. This was the original terminus of the GDT at Mount Robson. So some folks will exit here just because you get to the highway and you can get a bus, you can get a hitch back to civilization pretty easily. But you will need, and these are fairly popular at Kinney Lake, Whitehorn, Emperor Falls, Marmot, Berg Lake, Rearguard, Robson Pass. Bookings are already open. They actually opened in November, I think, or October, November. So you may have a hard time getting spots along the Berg Lake Trail right now. And then there is front country camping at Robson River or Robson Meadow. Mount Robson will hold resupply boxes. The Walker Creek. So one of the folks you may not be aware of is once you get to Kakwa Lakes, you're not done. You may be at the terminus. You're at the end of the trail, but you've got about 100 kilometers of forestry road that you need to walk to get out of. So lately, it's been in better condition. So the Walker Creek Forest Road has been cleared. There's some forestry work that's going on in the area, so they've kind of upgraded and cleared parts of the road. And there is a campsite at kilometer 37 at Bastille Creek. So you can pretty much camp, wherever along the road, and hopefully you're lucky, you'll find a, ATV or, off-road group that's coming out, and they may offer to give you a road back to the highway, but don't count on it. You may get it, you may not, but okay. We also do offer through Robson Backcountry Adventures. There is a Blueberry Lake trailhead resupply. So this is, in the years that we had the closure of Berg Lake, many folks were using this as a resupply point. So we worked with the BC Rec Sites and Trails to get a resupply box set up at the trailhead. People were digging holes and putting food caches in them, or hanging them up in a tree and hoping that it would still be there when they got back. And it wasn't exactly the best situation. So we do offer this service. They basically will put it in this box right here for either $129 or $99 if you're a member. They can also meet up at Blueberry Lake itself. So Lake, and then you'd have to hike down to get to the trailhead, and it's a bit of a steep grind to get down and then back up again. So some folks will pay extra to get the Robson Backcountry folks to actually bring it to you at Blueberry Lake. So if that's something you want to do, definitely reach out to them, and you can make arrangements. And Robson Backcountry Adventures will also do pickups on the Walker Creek Forestry Service Road. So if you don't want to walk the whole Walker Creek Road out to the highway, you can also work with Robson Backcountry to get arrange a. They won't be able to drive all the way to Takakwa Lake to pick you up, but they'll basically be able to cut off about half of that trail. Okay, so can you do it? That's one of the questions that I get a long time. So okay, it's a big trail. It's a lot of terrain. I had the honor to actually hike with Peter Whitehead when he finished the trail at age 79. We did a section together, part of section E. So you definitely can do it. Like, it's not an easy trail. It's not a it's not like some of the trails, like, the Appalachian Trail, where you can show up day one with no experience and no gear and kind of figure out as you go. Once you start in Waterton and you get over into things like Linham Ridge and Alderson and those areas, like, you start getting some pretty good elevation pretty quick. It hits you pretty hard and pretty fast. So you definitely do want to be in shape. You do want to, make sure you've dialed in your gear. You've had a few nights to test out your kit, and that you're comfortable with using it. But anyone can do it, as long as you do the right preparation, planning, and being ready for it. Okay, now we get into the Parks Canada reservation system. So this is where I know most people, like, this is where people have a lot of anxiety about, okay, what do I do? What am I going to get permits? Am I going to be, am I going to miss everything out, and then am I going to be screwed for being able to hike the trail? So I'm going to just take a moment before we get into questions to just kind of walk everyone through what the kind of the reservation system looks like, and then some tips and tricks. So how can you make it a little bit easier as you kind of go through that process? So this is the Parks Canada reservations website. Now, typically, and how they've done it every year until apparently this morning, so hopefully they're changing it back, is what will typically happen is at around 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time, they will open up a queue. So basically, people will, if you go to the website, the Parks Canada reservations website, and it's between 7:30 and 8 a.m., you won't get this screen. You'll basically say, hey, we're waiting for people to queue up. And then at 8 o'clock on the dot, anyone who is waiting gets assigned kind of a random spot in the queue. So you could luck out and be person 100. You could have bad luck. You could be person 10,000. What people will often do is like they'll get a couple computers up and running. So if you've got 2 laptops or you got your friends, get a couple computers going. You can also join using different browsers. So you can say, hey, I'm going to connect with Chrome. I'm going to connect with Firefox. I'm going to connect with Edge, or whatever browsers you use. And basically each different browser will have a different session with the Parks Canada site. So at 8 o'clock, the moment that the queue kind of tips over and you get assigned your spot, you can then say, oh, I'm going to pick whichever browser or whichever computer has the lowest number in the queue. So that's, like I said, that's how it typically works. We heard some feedback this morning, because this morning was actually the first day that permits were open for the season for Revelstoke. So it's not part of the GDT, so not anything that anyone needs to worry about. It sounded like the queue wasn't working correctly this morning. The website crashed. But they apparently took the website out of service to do some maintenance. So hopefully it'll all be sorted out in advance of the reservations that start next week for the ones that you're going to be most cared about. A couple things that you can do right now. So one is, you will need a account with Parks Canada. So if you click on the little sign in button here, you'll have a bunch of different options, whether through Google, through Facebook. If you can create a GC key if you're a Canadian citizen, or you live in Canada. So what I would do is I would make sure go to the website, make sure that your account is set up, right? So with whatever option that you choose, make sure that it's set up, your profile is created, and it's ready and good to go. As mentioned, on the day of, get connected at 7:30 a.m. At 8 o'clock, you'll hopefully get your queue, and then you'll be shown this screen right here. First thing you want to do is you want to click on Backcountry, and then you'll want the Backcountry zone. Backcountry campsite is for specific campsites in different parts of the country, usually towards the east. West Coast Trail, if you're hiking the West Coast Trail on Vancouver Island. Long Range Mountains, this is the one that I'm going to be trying to get next week, because I'm hoping to head out to Newfoundland for a week and do some hiking out there, or the Chilkoot Trail in the Yukon. But for our purposes, you want to click Backcountry Zone, and then either Banff, Kootenay, and Yoho Backcountry, or Jasper. Those are the two that you need to worry about. For Banff, Kootenay, and Yoho, you'll want to say, okay, what is the day that you're going to be arriving in park? So maybe it's July 17th. Party size, tent pads, and then you'll want to pick your access point. So this is where you'll want to do a little bit of kind of planning your itinerary out, in that you wanted to basically, the way that the Parks Canada site works is that you start at an access point and you start building an itinerary. So typically for most people, the first one that you come into the park is going to be the Palliser Pass access point. So I'll start there. You may not want to start, because of the popularity of those those campgrounds I mentioned at Ball Pass and Flow Lake. This may not be the absolute first one you want to book, but I'll at least use this and kind of show you what the website looks like and what the process is. So you get here and it'll give you to say, okay, you're starting at the Palliser Pass access point, arrival July 17th. You can then start picking your campgrounds. So you can either do it in this drop down. You can say, okay, I want to stay at, like Birstall, which is like your first campground. You can, basically you'll have all the list of campgrounds here. So you want to make sure that you know what's what. The other option is, you can see we've got the little map down here, or you can just say, oh, I want Birstall, or I want Birdwood, or I want Big Springs. And so basically it'll tell you, you've got the little green dot that, okay, these are available, or it's been, red dot, it's been booked up. So this allows you to kind of pick the sites that you want in order to build your itinerary. So I can say, hey, I want to start at Birstall. Probably won't let me, let's see. Yeah, it won't let me book because reservations aren't open right now. But I can basically normally would say, okay, you've got Bristol, and then you'll then have the option of, okay, what's the next campground, and what's the next campground, and the next campground, and you basically just start assembling your itinerary. And then once you've got that locked in, you click reserve, and it'll add it to your cart. So I would strongly recommend that you spend a little bit of time kind of familiarizing yourselves with this little map, because you can drag it up and down and see where, where the various access points are. So, for example, the first section of trail, you're going to hike up the Spray Valley up here, then you'll come up to Bryant Creek and Marvel Lake, and then you'll get into Assiniboine. So if you're trying to build like a full itinerary and just saying, okay, well, one night I'm at Bristol, for example, and then the next night I'm at Marvel Lake, and then the night after that, okay, I'm staying in Assiniboine. So you can actually click this out of park and say, okay, on July 20th, I'm actually out of park. And then the night after, I'm at Howard Douglas, and then I'm at Egypt Lake or what have you. So that allows you to basically chain together all your sites as you build out that itinerary. Now, the 2 points where I mentioned where we have that kind of challenge is Ball Pass Junction right here, which is that small 5-person campground. And then the next campground is Flow Lake. So, again, see, like this is like over 20 kilometers from this point to this point, and about over a kilometer of elevation gain. So you climb up, it's only about maybe 250 meters from Ball Pass Junction to Ball Pass. And then you hike all the way down Hot Creek. And then it's another 800 meters of elevation to Flow Lake. So you may say, you know what, actually, I want to pick the Flow Lake trailhead and book Flow Lake right away, because that's going to be very, very popular. Or I may want to say, I'm going to pick my Flow Lake trailhead and I'm going to pick Ball Pass Junction right away, so that you can get these locked in. Or you may say, you know what, I want to get this section of trail booked as quickly as possible. So I'm going to say, I'm starting at the Healy Pass trailhead, get Egypt Lake, get Ball Pass Junction, get Flow Lake, get those booked. And then I may come back and say, okay, I'm now going to start my second itinerary at Palliser Pass, and then pick this section of trail, which is a little bit less busy. So maybe I'll kind of pause there, because I know that there's a lot I've probably just shown very quickly. We've got the Q&A kind of section opening. So if there's any specific questions on kind of the booking within the Parks Canada, at least for Banff, Kootenay, and Yoho, definitely happy to answer any questions. I think there's a way I can.
One question is, Kelly, do you still get the notification from parks if your campsites are too far apart?
So we've done some work with Parks Canada to adjust that. So there used to be some areas like people would try to pick, okay, I'm going from Ball Pass Junction, and the next night I'm going to Flow Lake, and the site would come back and say, well, you can't do that. That's 20 kilometers. That's too far. So we have worked with Parks Canada to get that adjusted. So at last I heard, you can still book the Ball Pass Junction to Flow Lake, and it won't give you that warning. If you start getting into like 25, 30 kilometer in a day, it's going to come back and say, it's not possible to do this in a daytime, which, many people will hike more than, 25 kilometers in a day, but Parks Canada does try to protect you from yourself in that case. So in those cases, if you're expecting to do a really long day, you may have to build a couple different itineraries to kind of string those sites together.
Okay.
When booking in the national parks, does one booking cover multiple people and or multiple tents? So when you do the like that initial setting, you have the option here where you can say, you can set the party size. So if it's like 4 people or 5 people or 2 tent pads or 3 tent pads, you can set it here, and so it'll group it all together in order to, if you have a group of you that are working together. Parks Canada is pretty, I'd say, particular in that they only allow one tent per site. Some of the sites you can probably fit more than one, but Parks Canada is very much one tent per tent pad. Some of the other, like in BC, they've got a little bit more flexibility that if it's two small tents that can fit on one pad, they're okay. But definitely be aware of that. There's a question around like you have 20 minutes to finish your renovation. Yeah. Once you click the reserve button, it'll go into your shopping cart on the top of the page, and you've got 20 minutes in order to check that out. So one thing that's also to bear in mind is if you get in and you had bad luck and your queue number was pretty high, you get in and it's gone. These are all gone. Everything's gone. Wait. Give it at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes before you kind of give up for the day, because people will put things in their cart, right? Like they'll start checking things in. They will, they'll pick a bunch of itineraries and then they'll change their mind or what have you. After 20 minutes, that'll expire and then it'll get sent back to the queue. So though you may start seeing things start popping up available again after 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So definitely, keep an eye out. And that way you can, sometimes, like I said, sometimes those sites will pop back up again. You can also look at the calendar view for some of these. Like once you've picked a site, because it won't let me pick a site right now because like we're not reservation, you can look at the calendar view and it'll say, oh, okay, like, well, there's it's not available on Tuesday, but it is available on Wednesday. So we can, you can like say, okay, maybe I'll pick a day here, pick a day there. Some of the other questions around like selecting the campsites you choose for multiple in a row. Yeah. So the moment it shows up here, so if you picked Flow Lake and then you're saying, okay, now I need to pick Ball Pass or Numa Lake or Numa Creek or what have you. Yeah. The moment it shows up here, you have it. It's not gonna disappear. And so you can spend a little bit of time building up that itinerary, and then click reserve, and then then you've got 20 minutes in your cart in order to check out. But yeah, you don't have to worry about saying, okay, I picked Flow Lake and then I'm picking something else and I come back and Flow Lake disappears. Once it's in this kind of build your stay, then you're okay. So again, looking at the Q&A. Did something change with Parks booking and thought it would not let you book stream of campsites? Yeah, like I said, it's been extended. If I recall, it's about 25 kilometers. I don't know, Kate, do you know exactly what it might have been, what it was updated to?
I don't know, sorry.
If I recall, it was about 25 kilometers. So it should allow you to do that, like the one that we bumped into the most of the time, which is the Ball Lake to Flow Lake, or sorry, Ball Creek to Flow Lake. But it's not unlimited, right? I'm pretty sure it's around 25 kilometers that you'll start getting that warranty again. A few questions about Section A. I can come back to that in just a moment. I think that's all the questions I saw on related to just booking the campsites through Parks Canada. The other one that you'll have to think about if you're doing Section A, so I'll come back to that, is we also have Waterton Lakes. Waterton Lakes is pretty similar. I'll pick which one? So again, you'll pick Waterton Lake, and then you can start to say, like again, many will start at the town site. If you want, some people will hike down to Boundary Bay and stay the night. It's only 6K from here to here. And they'll swim in the lake and touch the monument. But a number of folks will say, you know what, I'm just going to get 2 nights here at Waterton, I basically come in one day, I hike down to the border, touch the monument, come back, and then I'll head up over Alderson and out to Cameron Lake. So again, you can either book it here, and I'll show you just in a moment where you can book the front country campsite, because we picked the backcountry option. That's only going to give us the backcountry campsites. And then you've got the Acamina Creek campground, which is right about here. And then if you do the Roe Lake alternate, you're basically hiking on this side of the divide. So you don't have to worry about campgrounds at Lone Lake or Twin Lakes. And then after that, you basically hike up to Sage Pass right here. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's basically what you'd need to worry about booking for backcountry in Waterton. If you do want front country camping, so you just pick the front country camping option here. Equipment, so you'll probably have a small tent. Click search. And then this here now will give you the options for the town site. Actually, why is it still showing backcountry? There we go. So now it'll come up with the front country view, and you can pick the spots that you'd like to stay at the town site if you so choose. This is the same option. Like some folks that do want to stay like a day or two in Banff, they'll get a campsite at Tunnel Mountain or one of the campgrounds near Banff. So that's an option as well. One thing just to bear in mind, for Waterton, the booking day for front country and back country is the same. For Banff, it's different. So backcountry is available one day, front country is available a different day. One other one that I'll show you is just Jasper, because Jasper is a little bit different for the backcountry booking. So again, backcountry zone. We'll get to Jasper, and then we'll pick. Let's say we'll start with Nigel Creek. So click the button there. What you'll get is that depending on what access point you picked, you'll get different parts of the park, right? So I picked Nigel Creek, which is, I think it's pretty much right under this. Oh, there it is, Nigel Creek trailhead. So it'll give you the options to pick, like if you're doing like basically the in and around Brazo Loop, so 4 Point, Jonas Cutoff, Waterfall, Topkin, but it's like, oh, where's the rest of the park? In this case, you actually have to say, okay, well, I'm now looking at Malign Creek trailhead. So if I click on that, it'll give me the different options to say, okay, there's the Brazo section of the park, which I just looked at, but it's like, oh, Skyline is another section. So I click on Skyline, and it'll give me the campgrounds related to Skyline. So you kind of have to break up your itinerary a little bit differently in Jasper. Like Banff, you could just link everything together if you wanted in one big itinerary, whereas Jasper, again, you need to break it up based on the different areas within the park. But again, really recommend that you spend a little bit of time just kind of navigating the website, play around with the website. If you do this like over the weekend and you still have questions or I can't figure it out, by all means post on the Facebook page. We try to monitor it as best we can, and can try to answer questions. Either someone from the GDTA or other folks, enthusiasts of the Great Divide Trail will be able to answer some of those questions. Just looking at a couple of the other questions around here. I know people have been answering the questions we've been going through. Staying in the Waterton town site on a site with power, possible to plug in travel charger. Do you need non-standard plugs? If I recall, like if you book a site that does have service. Just trying to remember exactly for what Waterton has. I believe they have the regular, like I think they have the regular plugs. I'm just trying to remember if they have the larger ones for the RVs. So sometimes there's a bit of an adapter between like the big, I think it's like the 20 amp or 25 amp plug versus the regular ones. Let me check on that because it yeah, I'm not quite sure if they just have the regular plugs. Now, there's a lot of places, like if you go by the Waterton Visitor Center in the park, there's plenty of regular plugs there that you can plug in and recharge. So you don't necessarily need to have a plug-in at the campsite. There's lots of options. You go to a restaurant, go to a pub, grab some pizza. Lots of places within the town site to plug in. One thing to bear in mind is that cell coverage in Waterton town site is pretty inconsistent. So you can get Wi-Fi at the Welcome Center and a few of the restaurants, but there generally isn't cell coverage within Waterton town site. View of booking section E is it does make section E a bit more complex. Now, just to say that the things that are most popular when it comes to booking in Jasper. So you've got Brazeau is, because there are a lot of people that are just going to be doing the Brazeau loop, which is basically you come in here and you hike this kind of little triangle and then back out again. So it's more like 4 Point is going to be popular. Jonas Cutoff is going to be popular. But like Boulder Creek is not quite as popular. And basically the trail comes down, trying to see exactly, basically coming out of White Goat, and it's a little bit above, it's above Nigel Pass. So basically the trail comes in, you come over Cataract Pass right around here, you hike down this way, and then the trail basically links right kind of where the hand is. So it's a little bit further to Boulder Creek, but Boulder Creek's not nearly as popular as 4 Point. So this one is generally not too bad. Waterfalls and Toboggan are less popular, just because most of the people are just doing this loop as opposed to kind of this section up here. Elsewhere in section E, Skyline is going to be busy. There's kind of no two ways about that. You've got a lot of people that are going to be picking Skyline, but still, like some of these, like Evelyn Creek is generally not that popular, right? Because people are starting in the parking lot and it's like only like 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers to Evelyn Creek. So most people that are spending their first night on the trail are going to Little Shovel or more likely Snow Bowl. So you want to stay at Evelyn Creek. It's an okay campground. It's not quite as nice as the others, but it's, if you need to get spots, it's a place to go. Some people will also go off trail and camp at Watchtower. Watchtower is 3.5 kilometers off trail, but again, not nearly as popular. And Signal is not generally as popular. So the ones that are really popular are Little Shovel, Snowball, Curator, and Takara. Those are the big ones. These other ones are less popular. And like I said, this is a very, very well maintained and graded trail. By the time you get to this point, your trail legs are going to be the point where it's like, hey, if I stay at Evelyn Creek, I can probably just hike into Jasper the next day. So, probably not as much of a panic to get your permits for Skyline, but like I said, there's some nice campgrounds and some nice views along the way. The other one is, I believe it's under Malign Pass. It's these ones here. It's this kind of Schaefer, Maryvaux avalanche, where you've got that like kind of only one party that kind of picks through these. So, if you can, try to grab your dates here. If you don't, again, don't worry. Lots of people will be on the Facebook page saying, hey, I need Maryvaux for August 15th. Who has it? and then you can kind of coordinate to say, okay, great, I'll join your party for that day, and we'll hike together and do this section of trail, and then go on our merry ways um, um, as you proceed down the trail. So again, usually Jasper isn't too bad. Section E isn't too bad. It's Section C, like I said, Ball Pass, Junction, Flow Lake. Those are the two that you really want to try your best to get booked if you can. Few things around fuel canisters available in each of the resupply towns. Yeah, generally most places you'll have the isobutane canisters. I think sometimes Field, it was kind of inconsistent. There's like Yoho Bros or the Yoho Brothers little gas station that I've heard sometimes carries it and sometimes doesn't. But a lot of folks will either like um, like Kate just mentioned, we're working to get, resupply boxes held at the visitor center. So you can send yourself, or well, I don't know if you can actually send your fuel, but that's one option if you drop off a supply box there, or if you're gonna either bus or hitchhike into Golden or Lake Louise, they'll have plenty of fuel there to restock. That I think that would be the only place on the trail that's kind of on the main resupply that it may be a little bit questionable. Just a quick time check. So we've got about 20 minutes left. I'll just take a moment to kind of show you the other two booking sites. These ones aren't as critical because Parks Canada is starting next week. So that's definitely the urgency is there. For Alberta Parks, it is a 90 days in advance. So you basically got a 90-day rolling window in order to kind of make your bookings. And there's not a lot of permits that you need in Alberta or for Alberta Park. So you can say, hey, like backcountry camping, do a search. It'll come up with a map around Kananaskis of all the campgrounds. So it's like, okay, we want like generally the ones that you're going to be most interested in for backcountry camping. So I just check availability. So here we've got the campgrounds at Astor Lake, Forks, Point, 3 Isle Lake, and Turbine Canyon. You'll notice that Point is available. Point is actually open in the winter. You can go camping there if you like. So yeah, could go get a permit for this weekend. Actually, it looks like it's available. So if anyone wants to go camping at Point, you can head out tomorrow. But yeah, it's kind of a similar, like you say, hey, I want to pick this campground for this day, and then 3 Isle Lake the next day. You can build an itinerary, but generally you aren't going to be building an itinerary because it's you're going to stay at either Bolton or Mount Sorel, for your resupply, have a shower, recharge, and then most folks are like maybe you'll stay at Turbine Canyon if you're doing the regular route. If you're doing the North over alternate, maybe you'll stay at Astor Lake. But these other options for Forks or Point or 3 Isle are also available if you want. But generally, you're just picking the one permit, and away you go for backcountry. For front country, we're just going to say camping and lodging. You want a tent site. The length of your tent, but pick your date. And let's see if it usually gives you the option to search which park. Let's just try this again. Okay, yeah. So here we want to type in either Lougheed Provincial Park, camping and lodging, any camping spot. You can pick which campground you want. So Bolton Creek is pretty close to where the trailhead at Elk Pass. You've got Mount Sorel, which is camping only. It's walk in like 20 meters to your campground. Interlakes is another campground that's right there. Generally, if you can get to Bolton, because Bolton has the store there and showers, so it's most convenient. Just click on that, what day that you want. It's stay for one night, and it'll give you the right now Bolton's not open, so it's not going to actually give me the option, but then you just basically would pick the campground and make your bookings. One thing I would recommend is, like, when you are putting your itinerary together, it's usually a good idea to plan, like, so I know people, they want to hike, but basically whenever you get to each of the kind of section boundaries, so I'm going from section A to section B or section B to section C, is plan at 0 or 2, because of the way that permitting works. And it's like, okay, like, well, if I'm starting in Waterton on July 1st, how am I going to know that I'm going to be at, Takara in Jasper 6 weeks from now, right? So basically what our recommendation is that you say, you know what, I'm going to plan to have 2 zeros at Bolton, or I'm going to plan to have 2 zeros at Elk Lakes. Elk Lakes is a nice campground. It's a beautiful place to stay and just kind of, relax for a day. And that way, it's like, if you meet your itinerary, like you're on track, great. You can have a 0, you can rest, have some ice cream at Bolton Creek, and then you can kind of continue on your itinerary going forward. Otherwise, if you find out, hey, actually, I'm running a little bit behind. I've, maybe I twisted my ankle, so I'm going a little bit slower. That way you can say, you know what, okay, like I plan to have 2 zeros at Bolton. Guess I'm not going to have those zeros because I just ran out those 2 days. It's important to just build some buffers into your itinerary so that you kind of don't overrun or underrun your planned permits. I know some people that they've kind of gotten into this mad dash of, oh, I'm running behind, and so I'm going to use my InReach Risolio to ping my family back home saying, hey, quick, can you rebook my campsite from here to there? And it causes a lot of anxiety and stress. So I would, like I said, put a few zeros at each section boundary, and that way, if you're running behind, you've got a little bit of a buffer.
I have a little insider for Bolton. If
Yep.
you're gonna stay in Bolton, try and get site B23. It has power, water, and it's right near the wash house. So if you're walking in, it's the perfect site.
Yeah, that's a good. There's some powered sites that are right by the store, but they're not very nice. It's like, I think, an extra loop that they built a couple years ago. Yeah, if you want power, yeah, B loop is probably the nicest and closest. If you don't need power, A loop is a nice one as well, but they don't have power there. So, the other is, I'll just show you the BC park. So there's basically 2 things that you might have to do here. So one is, again, you click Backcountry. BC Parks uses the same software as Parks Canada, so it's going to look very similar. I can pick to say, hey, reservation is like, oh, these are ones that are tied to like specific trails. So if I want to get permits on the Berg Lake Trail, or I want to get permits on Assiniboine, this is where I go. With the exception of Berg Lake, BC Parks does a 3-month rolling window. So basically every morning, 3 months in the future, another day will open up from Assiniboine. As I mentioned, Berg Lake is already open. You can already book your permits for Berg Lake. Assiniboine is 3 months. And so I'll try Berg Lake and just see what it's probably all booked up. I know I was able to snag a couple sites for September, but same thing. I just click search. Yeah, it'll show right now everything's booked up right now. But again, exactly the same as Parks Canada. The one thing that's a little bit different is if you go under backcountry registration, if you want, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to be staying at Akamina Kinchaka website for a night. Click search. This is where I can basically, if you want, you can basically prepay the $5 it costs to stay at the Akamina Creek campground. Akamina Creek, I probably, you could do it if you want, because generally early enough in the hike that your itinerary is going to probably be pretty close to what you planned. So you can say, yeah, I want to book it for August 15th. You don't need to, like, it's, as long as you paid for it, then it's fine, right? So that just allows you, if you want to pay for that in advance, you can do it for I think it's Elk Lakes is around here somewhere as well. Yeah, so if you want to do that, you can do it for Elk Lakes. Um, Elk Lakes is, it's far enough up section B that, no, well, maybe you want to stay there for 3 days, right? Maybe it's, you want to stay there on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. I'd probably wait until you get to Elk Lakes and just pay at the kiosk rather than trying to book it in advance. Just a suggestion there. A few things, like, would you recommend planning the itinerary so that do busy days on weekdays? Yes, I would say that, there is going to be more demand on weekends. So, like, Flow Lake on a weekend, definitely going to be busier. So if you want to pick Flow Lake for a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you're going to have better luck. It's still going to be busy. They're still going to be very much in demand. If you can avoid, like, the August long weekend, like the plague, because, like, especially for the busier locations, because, like, August long weekend, like that Monday, like, things are going to be booked up like crazy. So try to, if you can, yeah, like, pick a weekday, try to pick it away from a long weekend, and that's going to help. Question: if you booking Akamina online, will it actually hold a site? No, it won't. It allows you to pay your $5 first come first serve online if you want, rather than having to put $5 in the kiosk when you get to the campsite. Akamina Creek it's a fairly big camp. I think probably about 15 sites. So I've been there a couple times. I've never had any issues with it running out of space. But and it is in a burn area. So the fire that they had a couple years ago in Waterton, it burned right through that area. So I mean, it's in a burn area. It's a brand new campground. They rebuilt the whole thing, so the facility is quite nice, but you're kind of in an open field with a bunch of extra firewood. Maybe one other I'll just quickly show folks is the Alberta public. So if you want to pre-purchase or public lands camping pass, you can just do a quick search on the public lands camping pass, and it'll give you basically the details on how you can get the whole map around, like, where you need the Crown Land camping pass. So it's basically anything in this blue area. So that's like Wilmore, Pinto, Livingston public land use zone. It's not required. So this little brown area, this is Beehive. This is the Castle Provincial Park and Wildland Provincial Park. Up here you've got White Goat. So you actually don't need the Crown Land camping pass to camp in those areas. This big green area is the Kananaskis Conservation Pass. So you basically only need this pass for down here, and up here in Wilmore. It is a little bit inconvenient because you actually have to go through the Alberta. I think it's like the resource management. It's basically where people get their hunting and fishing licenses. So you actually need to get the app, and you need to get basically an account, which I think they charge, like, you get your WIN number. So they basically charge you, like, I think it's like $10 to get a WIN number. And then once you have your WIN number, then you can pay your $30 and get your permit. And then the Crown Land camping pass shows up in the app. Like I said, it's the same thing if you're going fishing, and which is, I mean, if anyone does want to fish, you do need fishing licenses up and down the trail. I don't fish, so I don't have a ton of expertise on that, but there is going to be a Alberta fishing license, National Park fishing license, BC fishing license, and of course you'll need to be keep up to speed on where you can fish, where you can't fish, what you can keep, what you need to throw back. So there's all the kind of the rules around that. So this is where you get that the basically the public lands camping pass. One thing you may see is that, okay, but there's this Kananaskis Conservation Pass. So just to make things as clear as mud, you only need a Kananaskis Conservation Pass if you are parking a vehicle in this green zone. So if you're just hiking through, you don't need a conservation pass. If someone's dropping you off or picking you up, you don't need a conservation pass. If you plan to park a vehicle, then you do. So that's, and then if you do a search for the Kananaskis Conservation Pass, it'll come up with a different website, and you can purchase that pass either on a daily basis or annual seasonal passes if necessary. Do you need one pass? So yeah, so the public lands camping pass is per person, right? So basically, yeah, $30 per person for the annual pass, $20 for a 3-day pass. Yeah, so each person does require their own pass. Okay. I think Kate, I know you've been monitoring the Q&A. Is there any Q&As that we've missed or haven't covered?
Not that I've seen. I think you got them all.
Okay. I know we've got about 5 minutes or so left. Like, we are going to, we'll post the recording to YouTube as well. So if anyone wants to kind of go revisit it, or you have friends that weren't able to attend, we will have it available there in order for folks to check it out. One thing I did say I would do is I would just show you how to download the KML file from our website if you do want to load it into a different GPS tool. So for those of you who haven't come to our website, definitely please check it out. The IT committee has done a lot of work to spiffy it up and make it look nicer, and I think they've done a fantastic job. Although I'm on the IT committee, I didn't actually I didn't work on the kind of the rebranding. I more do the membership side of things to make sure our membership section works. So while you're here, definitely donate, volunteer, buy a membership. But if you do want to download the map, so there's a ton of information here around planning your hike, backcountry safety, maps, permits. If there's anything that I described here that you want more information about, there's a whole guide of how to work through this, and you can review this. So there are a lot of resources here to help support you as you kind of do your planning and get ready for next week. We've got a full step-by-step guide to help you with planning. If you go to the GDT map, what you'll see here, on this page, is kind of like a little embed of the map, and you can zoom in. But if you want to look at and say, hey, I actually want to download it, if you click on kind of the maximize button here, so when I click on that, it'll open it up in kind of the full page mode. So I can, if I want, you can still zoom in and look here and look at data points and sort by waypoints, alternate routes, so on and so forth. But if you go up to these three dots right here and click on it, it'll give you here download KML. So this will allow you to download the KML file. You can say, you know what, actually I want to download, rather than just the route, I want all the waypoints, I want all the alternate routes, I want the access routes and trailheads, campgrounds, basically I want everything. And then when I hit and download the KML, it'll basically you can say I want it as a KML or KMZ. Basically you don't want to use it only usable online, because you're going to be downloading it to an offline tool. But yeah, this basically gives you the option to save that as a file. The easiest way I found to get this to your onto your phone if you're using Gaia is just email it to yourself. So from your computer, email it to your Gmail account, and then from your phone, save the file, and then you can load it into Caltopo, Gaia, whatever tool that that you use in order to grab that. Is there any way to navigate the trail using the Apple? I've never tried it on the Apple Watch, but like I said, yeah, like I said, I myself use Gaia. I know a lot of people who will use Far Out, and Far Out will have the information there as well. A few of the other things, just as we got 4 minutes left, I'll just show you just a few of the other resources. So there's the itinerary that we talked about. So this will have basically a spreadsheet with like the full itinerary. Just let that open up. Yeah, so here, like you can say, hey, I've got the relaxed, average, fast, and it'll tell me, it's like, okay, like if you're doing the average, these are the places we recommend that you stay. You know, do you need a reservation? Yes or no? How much is the reservation? What's the campground priority? So these will be like, okay, how quickly are these campgrounds going to go? So at least give you a bit of a, okay, where should I focus my efforts? When we do these itineraries, we do try to, you know, make it so that we spread things out as much as we can. So if you notice here, for the average, it's like, okay, we say, hey, stay at Ball Pass Junction where you need a permit, and then next go to Wolverine Pass. It's a long day. It's a 41-kilometer day, so don't you know, it's probably going to be one of the longest days on the trail. But this allows you to avoid Flow Lake if you wish. Again, you don't need to, like, there's no requirement that you have to do one of these itineraries, but at least gives you a starting point to kind of plan your stuff out. And then we've got like comments around, like, you know, if you need a permit doing this way, the trail is going to be extra brushy. You know, is it off route, on route? So yeah, this is just a great resource to kind of help plan and organize your trip as you see fit. A question just about the Ayers Lake Trail. Yep, that's something actually I got to spend some time helping build it last summer. But there's a whole basically for about, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks, there was a kind of a standing camp out there where people are doing a lot of work. And yeah, it should be hopefully completed by the end of this summer. Okay.
Kelly,
Well,
what about a members only Q&A? There's a question about that.
Yeah, I know we had talked about setting that. I don't think we've sent the invite out about that. Maybe Megan, you and I can just quickly touch base on how do we get the information on that one out.
Yeah, we'll get that out soon, and so that will be tomorrow for members only.
And the yeah, I think we'll be starting that at 6 p.m. as well, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for joining. Hope you got what you needed from today's call. And if you aren't able to join, if you're not a member, or you aren't able to join the kind of the members only call tomorrow, definitely best of luck with your permits next couple of weeks, and hiking the trail. One thing I'll just quickly touch base on, I didn't mention it all, is, you know, if you get to the point where, okay, I tried to get my permits, I'm missing a day here, didn't quite fall through, the itinerary wasn't quite what I want, there are a couple of tools out there. Like, we're not affiliated with any of them, but like there's Schnurp, there's I think Camper Pass or something like that. There's a couple of these applications that you can basically say they will monitor the website for availability. So if someone cancels a particular site, you'll get a notification that says someone just canceled Flow Lake on the date that you wanted. Doesn't automatically book it for you, but at least gives you a notification, and then you can hopefully hop in and grab that cancellation. So some people find those tools really valuable. If you just like, I got everything I needed except for this one site, or it's not the perfect itinerary I wanted. Those are great tools to kind of help you out and get the sites that you need. But otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of the evening, and best of luck.
Yes, thank you very much, Kelly.
We'll see everyone later, and hopefully on the trail.